Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be writing our first program in Python, and to do that I'll quickly fire up my idle editor. Okay, I'll go to file. I'm going to open a new file, a new text editor, and then I'm going to save it as .py, Ctrl S. Since our first program, I'll just save it as first.py. So hit save. Now, for our example case here, we're going to write a program that prompts the user to enter his or her name, and then afterwards it prints welcome and attach the name of the user to it. So you watch, I'm going to do that. Prompt, create a variable called prompt, input, okay, what is your name? And okay, then print just a 2-line of code here. Welcome prompt. So let's run this program and see. Click on run module. So you say, what's your name? I'll say my name is John Francis. So you say, welcome John Francis. So let's quickly run through the program once again and see. Let me explain some things to us. In Python, okay, starting from number 1, the first line of the code, there is a prompt. The prompt here is a variable. Variables are storage spaces in Python. They are reference point. So if for instance you have something like, okay, it prompts you to say what's your name. When you enter your name, it saves it like a box. You can picture it like a box. So the box has a label on it. Imagine I enter a room and the room is filled up with boxes like that, and then in one of the boxes I put my shoe, as in one of the boxes contains my shoe. So how am I going to locate the boxes? So it is the labeling that will help me to do this. So if I label all the boxes like shirt box, cap, shoe, pen, like that, I'll be able to access easily the box containing my shoe. So you can picture variable like that. So when you write programs, there are times you need to save some things for reference purposes. So this is what the variables do in programming, and especially in Python. So the prompt here holds our name, the name we enter. So that is a function of variables. So whenever you come across variables in Python, you just declare them. Like you use any name. Like most times it's good to use the name to, like, for that will help you to remember the how to reference them. So we just simply write the name, and then with the assignment operator, that is this equal to here. This is actually known as assignment operator, although in mathematics we call it equal to. They are not the same thing. So in Python, equal to is double of the equal to we do before in mathematics. So here, this equal to sign stands for assignment. So this is the operator we use to assign the value, the value of the variable. So the first line here is simply declaring the variable and then assigning to the variable. Then we'll proceed. After the equal sign, the next thing you see here is input. So the input, you notice it has the color here is purple and is different from what you have in the prompt. So inputs, the input here is actually a keyword in Python. So when declaring variable, there are some things we need to know. We're going to talk about the rules of this of declaring variables very soon. So we don't use, there are some words that are known as reserved words in Python. You type them, they change, you see them, they change to different colors. So those are reserved words. You cannot use, for instance, I cannot declare a variable using input. I cannot declare a variable using print. These are keywords in Python. And what this input does is that it takes a string. You understand? String is a data type. We're going to talk about data type very soon. So it takes a string like a prompt. It prompts the user, for instance, what is your name? So whatever is written in this quotation symbol, quotation mark, is printed to the screen, and then it prompts the user for an action. So for instance, when you say what is your name, it waits for the user to enter the name, his or her name, and after that it saves it to what? The variable prompt. So the next line, contains the print statement. Print welcome plus prompt. So the print here, you can see, has the same color as the input here. That shows it's a reserved word in Python. So we don't use that to declare variable. So we say print. Then the syntax is you open there are two open bracket here. Then you see welcome. Whatever is inside this quotation mark, the string inside the quotation mark is printed to the screen. That is what it does here. So it's just like the input statement. It prints it, but the difference between this print and the input is that print does not prompt an action. So when you write print, for instance, let's say print, let's say what is your name? It does not prompt the user for an action. It just prints it to the screen. So you understand? So that's what this print does, and that's what makes it different from the input statement in Python. So what this line does once again is that it prints welcome. Then this plus sign is called what it does here is concatenating. It's not the mathematical addition that it does here. So the plus sign concatenates. What I mean by concatenate is it adds. So for instance, if I say my name is John, it simply add, literally, like it adds welcome, then add, that is it, the plus there is to add whatever you have entered, that is, let's say John. So that is what the plus operator does. It's called concatenation. So okay, let me quickly kind of address some things here. We talked about, okay, let's just look at rules for naming variables. Okay, rules for, okay, sorry, I will have to open up, okay, I have to add comment. Now you can add comments in Python. Now for instance, I'm about to explain some things to us here. So to do that, for instance, let me say rules. I intended typing rules for, you see the for has changed because it's a keyword in Python. So in order to be able to write comments in Python, you want to, so that someone who does not know what you did in your program can actually understand, like a note, adding note in Python. You do that using the hash symbol. So that is on your key 3, number 3 on the keyboard. So I'll say rules for naming variables in Python. So, like I've said, you don't use identifiers. You don't use keywords in Python to name variables. That is rule number 1. We don't use that. Then okay, I'll just write it out. Rule number 1. We don't use identifiers. Then when naming variables, we don't start naming it with a number. For instance, you come and say one prompt. It's not allowed in Python. It's against the rules. It's against the syntax. So we don't use values, like numeric values, to start naming a variable. And more so, we don't separate values. For instance, my name. Let's say I want to something like this, my name. I'll now say it's equal to what? Input okay, what is your name? So this is not allowed in Python. You don't use space. So if I must use these two words, my name, there are 2 ways in which I can do it in Python. It's either I close the space and use a capital letter, for instance, or you can still use your small letter for as the case may be, or I use my small letter and use an underscore. So my name, my underscore name is allowed in Python. And so you don't name variable by using spaces. You don't use space to name variable. And rule number 1, you don't use a number to start naming a variable. The number can come at the end. For instance, I can say x1. I can name a variable by calling it x1. It can come at the end. It can come in between. You understand? But you don't use a number to start naming. Then we also we can begin naming, you can name a variable starting with an underscore. Let's say my underscore my name is allowed in Python. Understand? So that I will just summarize them in points. Okay, I hope you take note of this. We don't use on numeric value to begin Python variables. Two, we don't use space to separate two words and I mean Python. Then thirdly, variables can begin with an underscore, and then we don't use identifiers. Okay, keywords cannot be used to name variables in Python. Okay, am I forgetting anything? Okay, so that those are the rules for naming variables. Now briefly, let's talk about data types in Python. Now you discover that I used quotation mark here to, okay, I used double quotation mark here. There was another, okay, at a point I still use single quotation mark. Okay, it's actually allowed in Python. It's actually allowed in Python. So we use either the quotation, either the double quotation and or the single quotation. They denote the same thing. It's used to enclose or to delimit a data type known as strings. So every data value in Python is classified into types. Yes, for organization purposes, they are classified into types. So one of the first data type I'll talk about is the integer data type. So the integer data type can be classified as the numeric data type. They can be subdivided into integers, floating point, and complex numbers. So for the integer is something like this, what we know as whole numbers in mathematics, like 3, 23, 34, 56. They are what? They are known as integers. And when a number contains a decimal point, such as let's say 34.567, this is an example of a float data type. So what we know as decimal in Python in mathematics is the equivalent of it in Python is known as floating point. So we categorize them as floating point data types. So then for complex numbers, it's simply the same syntax in mathematics: 2 plus 3j. That is the syntax for declaring complex numbers in Python. So basically, we apply the various mathematical operators to carry out operations on these. You understand? So like if I say 23 plus 34, it literally adds the two numbers mathematically. So the next data type we'll talk about is let's talk about the string data type. String, actually, they are data type that are they are delimited by, it's a combination of characters that are delimited by quotation mark. So in other words, they begin with a quotation mark and end the quotation mark, such that if, for example, in fact, whatever exists in quotation mark is regarded as a string. So if, for instance, I say quotation mark, I say 2 plus quotation mark, I say 3. treat it like a string. This is not your numeric tree, and this is not your numeric 2. So the operations on the various data type, the operations on the data type, the various data type varies. It varies. So when you are adding, for instance, let's say in integer data type, if you say 2 plus, let me open up our interactive shell to be better that way. If I say 2 plus 3, mathematically it will give me 5. This is because 2 is an integer and 3 is an integer. So this is how Python operates on integer. The addition operator is done by adding the both operands, the literals, mathematically. Now, if we go to same for floating point as well. So if we go to something like this, 2 plus, let's say 3. Watch how Python will evaluate this. It will print out 23. So this is it. In strings, when you use the plus sign when in strings to add two strings, it does what they call concatenation, meaning it joins the two numbers together. Like 2 and 3 are being put together to make what 23. So that is the string. That is how Python considers the plus sign when working with the string data type. So the next data type we can, okay, let's see what happens when we multiply and see. 2 multiplied by 3 mathematically gives us 6. That is correct. Let's see what happens if we say 2 multiply by 3. Now, in this case, I'm actually combining the operation of two data types, two different data types. So the first data type is a string. The first data type, the 2 here, is a string. The second data type is an integer. Let's see how Python evaluates this. Equal to 2, 2, 2. So in Python, we can actually operate on two different data types using the asterisk symbol, but we cannot do the same using the addition symbol. So when you do this, it's going to give what they call data type error. So we cannot concatenate two different data types. We cannot add together two different data types, but we can actually multiply let me just be straightforward. We cannot concatenate or add a string and numeric data type, but we can actually do the same for when it is the asterisk, when it's multiplication. So for instance, in this scenario, let me do the same thing with the addition symbol. So I'll say 2 plus 3. It will bring about a type error. The full is what is data type error. So you can see can only concatenate string, not int to string. So that is it. So when we work with data, it is very important for us to know the different data type. Another data type we should look at briefly. When we get into each of these data types, we're going to be looking at them in details. So another data type we look at is the list data type. You can see it changes to purple to tell you it is what a keyword. For the string data type, we use str to convert or to show that it's a string. We have the list. Another one, we have the tuple. We have dictionary. Is it right? Okay, your dictionary data type. We have the set data type. Okay. Dictionary data type is actually, sorry. Actually, the keyword is actually dict. So, but I'll just write it in full. Okay. Or let me use a bracket. Dictionary data type. Okay. Is that? So we have various data types in Python. You can even create your own data type. That is a good thing about Python, because Python is an object-oriented language. We can say that everything in Python is an object. You can create your own classes in Python, and when you do this now, they become the data type. So I don't want to make this video too long. So what is going to happen is for our next for our subsequent videos, we're going to be discussing the data types in full. So we'll talk about strings and the various operation on strings. Then we'll talk about string list and the various operations, the various methods that can be applied on list, tuple, dictionary, set, like that. So I want you to stay tuned to the channel for my next video, so that you get the you get all the necessary explanation as regarding this tutorial series. So if you really enjoyed this video, I want you to hit the like button and then subscribe to my channel if it's your first time of coming to this channel. So there are a lot of things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be taking exercises. We're going to be working together, take exercises. We take projects at the end of every weekend. We are going to be taking exercises, and at the end of every topic as well, we'll take some exercises. So thank you once again for tuning to this channel and for subscribing. Have a wonderful week.